It is the opinion of this subcommittee that those who engage in acts of homosexuality and other perverted sex activities are unsuitable for employment in the federal government. This conclusion is based upon the fact that persons who indulge in such degraded activity are committing not only illegal and immoral acts, but they also constitute security risks in positions of public trust. Employment of homosexuals and other sex perverts in government, Interim Report, 1950. So, let's talk about Spies Are Forever.
Spies, masters of disguise, gentlemen alive. Don't you know it's doing time?
It's time to be a spy. Running out of time, we gotta stay alive. All you gotta do is realize.
Wanna be a spy, gonna be a spy, gotta be a spy.
Time to be a spy.
Spies Are Forever. It's a musical about spies, but it's really a lot more than that. It tells the story of Agent Kurt Mega, a James Bond-esque spy who tries to save the world from evil supervillains. It takes place in the 60s during the Cold War. I recommend you watch it before you watch the rest of this video, as there will be spoilers ahead. Agent Kurt Mega is a lot like James Bond. He's suave, he's arrogant, he drinks martinis and uses cool gadgets, but unlike Bond, he's not a womanizer. In fact, he's actually gay. And this character detail isn't just a small subversion of the Bond girl trope. I mean, it's that too, but it's actually a big part of the story that amplifies a lot of the main themes of the show.
Spies never die. Spies are forever.
On February 20th, 1950, after his famous speech announcing there were 205 communists working for the State Department, Senator Joseph McCarthy spoke to the Senate to give specific examples of these communists, including the cases of 2 gay men, Case 14 and Case 62. This was the first major instance of linking communism, which was seen as the biggest threat to the country at the time, and homosexuality. And thus was the start of the witch hunt known as the Lavender Scare. Like the Red Scare, the Lavender Scare focused on removing people who were seen as dangerous to the country from the US government, only it focused on gay men and lesbians rather than communists. Also, way less people know about it. In the 3 years following McCarthy's speech, 2 Senate subcommittees undertook investigations into this issue of homosexuals in the government, including deciding what to do with suspected individuals and how to spot them. They even consulted with doctors and psychologists on the pathology of homosexuality. In the end, they released a report on their findings, which is where the quote at the beginning of this video comes from. This cemented the stance both for the public and for the government that gay people constituted a danger to society and a security risk, and they were not suited for government work. This also directly led to an executive order by President Dwight D. Eisenhower that allowed for the discrimination in hiring and firing of government employees based on sexual perversion. This was eventually undone by President Bill Clinton in 1995. 1995. It's estimated that between 5,000 and 10,000 gay men and lesbians were fired or resigned from their jobs due to their sexuality. And it wasn't like they could just move on and find new jobs. If people found out the reason they left, they could be ostracized and prevented from ever working again. Many lives were ruined because of these policies. These ideas were of course pertinent in the CIA, the main government organization that deals with spies, where gay officers were viewed as at risk for potential blackmail. In 1980, the agency released a memorandum on how to identify a homosexual in order to expose them. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, you can read the whole thing online. It's, yeah. Up until the 90s, the CIA asked their employees about their sexuality using polygraph tests.
Yes! It's a lie detector!
And a wrong answer could cost you your job. This just goes to show you that these attitudes were not relaxed until very recently, and that working for the US government meant that the pressure on LGBT individuals was even more intense than it was on the general public. The 1950s and 60s, when Spies Are Forever takes place, was the height of this paranoia. So just how does Spies Are Forever incorporate Kurt's sexuality into the narrative? Well, in a lot of ways. Right off the bat, the title number sets up a subversion of audience expectations. The title song lists different qualities of your typical Bond-esque spy, including this.
It's time to get the girl again.
But then subverts it by making Kurt gay. What's interesting is that in the next scene during Spy Again, Kurt also lists the qualities of the spy.
Spy again, wear a suit and tie again. Drink martinis and drive again.
But he doesn't mention anything about women. The opening also sets up a lot of later moments in the show, such as Torture Tango, Owen's big reveal,
Personal history does have its benefits, Mega.
and even these lines.
Your heart he'll break.
You know you broke my heart.
There's also a lot of flirting between Kurt and Owen,
I don't like that look in your eyes. Yes, 6 minutes. Oh, you love it?
and some very heterosexual dancing.
Once a spy, always a spy, forever, forever.
In the next scene, we get the first instance of Kurt referring to Owen as his, partner.
Me and my partner, Owen.
Which brings us to an interesting point about coding. In media, coding is when characters are presented with traits, often stereotypes,
Owe me a lot of money.
that tell the audience that they are a certain way that isn't explicit in the text. Usually when we talk about coding, we refer to queer coding, which is when characters who aren't explicitly queer are given characteristics that lend them to a queer reading. A lot of this phenomenon stems from the Hays Code, which was a set of guidelines in Hollywood that prevented movies from showing things that were deemed immoral, including the depiction of queer characters. These rules led to a lot of queer-coded villains, including Bond villains, and this trend has lasted way beyond the end of the Hays Code. It's especially notable in Disney movies.
Don't underestimate the importance of body language.
But queer-coded characters are not always villains. One of the prime examples is in the film Ben-Hur, where the relationship between Masala and Ben-Hur can easily be read as romantic.
I said I'd come back.
A lot of Kurt's character would definitely be considered only coding if it weren't for what happens later in the show. There are the more stereotypical traits, such as him caring about his appearance,
No go in the shoes, Bob. They didn't match my outfit.
or him being a mama's boy,
Mega here. Oh, hey, Mom.
which, according to the Sunday Mirror in 1963, was a sure sign of homosexuality. There's also the fact that he shows zero interest in women,
Bob, I could kiss you, but I won't. Ever.
and the fact that his journey is started not by, say, the death of a sexy lady, but by the death of his male partner. In fact, this scene of Kurt's drunken grieving always reminds me of a scene from another movie starring a definitely 100% straight protagonist.
I can't get drunk.
Anyway, my point is, it would be easy to keep all of this subtext, to leave Kurt's sexuality up for debate, but eventually all of this coding is, well, decoded, and subtext becomes text. In the UK, where Kurt's partner Owen worked, things were not ideal. MI5, MI6, and GCHQ had similar policies to the US about gay employees, although they were not enforced as strictly. The idea that gay agents were security risks and more susceptible to blackmail was pervasive in the 50s and 60s, in a large part due to the Cambridge Five. The Cambridge Five was an English spy ring who worked for the KGB during World War II and the Cold War. Two of the spies, Guy Burgess and Anthony Blunt, were gay, and another, Donald McLean, was bisexual. Before the events of Spies Are Forever, Burgess and Blunt had already been identified as Soviet spies, which caused a massive scandal in the country. While Owen, Kurt's dead ex-lover, is obviously important to the discussion of Kurt's sexuality, Tatiana the Russian spy is equally as important. First of all, her character not being a love interest is an instant subversion of the most well-known Bond trope, but she also provides a lot of insight into Kurt's character. The scene in the casino is where the relationship between Kurt and Tatiana starts to get fleshed out, and where one of the major themes of the show, trust,
Who do you trust? Who do you betray?
is introduced. Not only do we see some of Kurt's very uncomfortable flirting,
We are talking about fighting, right?
we also see Tatiana immediately see through Kurt's confident facade,
You are indeed alone, like me.
which clearly worries him. This is where the historical context really starts to play into the character. Tatiana, recognizing that Kurt is hiding something, is not only dangerous to him as a spy, but also as a gay man. To make things worse, she immediately betrays any trust they had built up by that point by turning him into the villain, the deadliest man alive. Now I want to talk about Tortured Tango. As many people have pointed out in the comments section of Spies Are Forever, this number is very, very homoerotic.
And just for my enjoyment, you will suffer, 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 until you die.
But more than that, I think it really exemplifies Spies Are Forever's treatment of sexuality, especially when you compare it to the Bond movies. In Skyfall, which came out a few years before Spies Are Forever, there's a scene between James Bond and the villain Raul Silva that a lot of people at the time were calling homoerotic, which I don't love. There's actually a really interesting essay about the scene that I'll link to in the description. Both scenes are kind of torture scenes wherein the villain gets very close to our hero, and in theory they could be very similar, but in fact they're very different.
Well, she never tied me to a chair.
Her loss.
Are you sure this is about him?
It's about her. And you and me. You see, we are the last two rats. We can either eat each other,
The Skyfall scene is, in my opinion, very uncomfortable to watch. What people consider homoerotic is Silva trying to emasculate and humiliate Bond, and Silva definitely slips into a bit of queer-coded villain territory. The eroticism is more salacious than sexy, and Bond's line that could maybe suggest that he is bisexual
First time for everything. Yes.
What makes you think this is my first time?
or has experience with other men was just meant to throw Silva off. This is no triumph of representation. It also doesn't help that when Daniel Craig, who played Bond in the movie, was asked if the line could be interpreted as Bond being bisexual, his answer was a flat-out no. Compare all of this to Torture Tango, which is homoerotic mostly because of the chemistry between the two characters. This is why the scene stands out so much when you know the real identity of the deadliest man alive. It's not throwaway. It gives us a lot of insight into our villain as a character, and it gives us more clues to his real identity. And of course, we get some actual representation to go along with it. At the end of this scene, we have Kurt's trust issues brought up again.
You expect me to trust you? Again?
You don't understand. He blackmailed me, my family. Let me help you.
I don't need your help. I don't need anyone's help.
And then we arrive at the point of the show where things start to move from subtext to text. Once again, Kurt refers to Owen as his partner.
My partner, Owen.
And we learn that Kurt never brings any girls home to meet his mother.
Just a constant parade of drinking buddies for polka or wrestling or whatever you boys do in the rumpus room.
Kurt and Tatiana start to open up to each other, and what's important is that Tatiana opens up first by telling Kurt about her past working for the KGB. And this is after she saved him, so she's indicating that she is someone he can trust.
Talk to me.
There's nothing to say.
I think there is. So let it out. Let me in.
He in turn opens up to her about some of his insecurities stemming from Owen's death, when she explicitly tells him that he is to start trusting people again.
Trust the people who care about you, and who knows? Maybe you'll find a new partner.
It's misinterpreted as flirting, which leads to my favorite song in the show.
I guess we're doing this. I see that look in your eye. How could I resist? I'm a girl. I'm a guy.
This unfortunate heteronormative interlude does lead to Kurt reluctantly revealing his sexuality to Tatiana.
You're not my type.
This is probably the most important moment in their relationship. Tatiana accepting Kurt,
You're cool with me.
Till the end.
tells him that he can trust her no matter what, and she's really the only person he has that trust with at this point. Even his mother doesn't know the truth. This is a big deal for him, and in the next scene, Tatiana's acceptance helps Kurt regain his confidence and agree to work with the team again.
Blast my way, I lost hope. Forgot the dream until I found you guys. Now I'm part of the team.
The last few scenes are where everything comes together. Even before the official reveal of Kurt and Owen's past relationship, it's clear that Kurt's opposition to Owen's plan isn't just ideological, it's personal. Going back to the theme of trust, Owen has betrayed Kurt's trust in the biggest possible way, not only by pretending to be dead and torturing him,
To show ya the aura of staying alive.
but also by being part of a scheme that would be directly detrimental to people in their position. I mean, if you think about it, this idea of surveillance in a global network, basically the internet, would be terrifying to Kurt.
Every man deserves a little bit of privacy.
Sure, but you're not a man. You're property of the United States government.
As we established, being gay and working for the government at the time was a very precarious position to be in. And this fear of being outed was not hypothetical. It happened to thousands of people, and that's without an advanced surveillance network. So when Kurt says this,
Some secrets aren't yours to share.
it hits pretty hard. Even more so because Owen should understand that, but he's too blinded by his desire for revenge. You can see him really considering Kurt's pleas because when he walks up the stairs, Owen points his gun at Kurt's heart and only points it back to his head when he tells Kurt to move on.
That secret died the night you left me for dead. Clearly. Here's some advice, Kurt. It's called moving on.
I think this is the most powerful scene in the show because it takes this kind of abstract evil threat and makes it tangible and emotional for both the hero and the villain. In the last scene of the show, Kurt has moved on like Owen suggested. He has a new purpose and a new outlook, and I think a lot of this comes from Tatiana. With her, he has found someone who accepts him and who he can trust completely.
And if he learns to trust those around him, perhaps he can learn to trust himself again.
It seems like Owen was the only person that he had that with before, but having a true friend in Tatiana allowed him to let go. Their friendship is just so sweet and mutually beneficial. And maybe this,
I think you don't need to hide behind a beard to make you look cool.
Has a double meaning? I don't know. Also, it's probably for the best that Kurt left his government job under relatively good circumstances.
You cannot quit a job you don't work at. Remember at the gala in Geneva when you went rogue and fucked everything up?
Spies Are Forever doesn't directly reference the Lavender Scare or the Cambridge Five or any other specifics of the era, but in the end, it doesn't matter. When you make stories about LGBT characters set in the past, the history is baked into the narrative. This is what we're working with when we set a story about a gay spy in 1961. So that's it. That's the show. Sure, it's a comedy,
Oh, whiskey on the rocks, very fancy. You're getting whiskey with ice. Yeesh.
but its main character is actually a well-rounded, thoughtful, gay spy. And media about gay spies is not exactly common, at least in the mainstream. And a lot of it that does exist isn't very fun. Spies Are Forever does not make Agent Kurt Mega into a tragic gay figure. He's not a victim, but it also doesn't completely ignore the realities of his situation as a closeted gay man working for the government in a time where his existence would be seen as a threat to national security. His sexuality is not incidental. It's very important to the story, but it's not his only defining character trait. Like James Bond, he's suave, he's arrogant, but he's also loyal and sometimes insecure. And of course, he's gay.
'Cause a spy